Hi, Daniel and John here, and back with another one of our sort of how-to videos. This is a 2004 Discovery 2. We've had the M&S lights flashing on the dashboard, and here we have the XYZ / inhibitor switch that sits on the side of the gearbox. It's an automatic, plugs in there, and it goes on a shaft onto the gearbox at set positions. We're just going to show you, this is the black one. There are different colours, but this is the black one with the rotary switch inside. So we're just going to show you.
That might be useful for people there.
Yeah. We're just going to show you what the problem was. So if you've got the same issue, you
so help. When we took it off, it had two 10mm bolts here. There's one that is at the top and is quite awkward. Take it from the top and out. You'll see what I mean when you do it.
You need a really small little
socket, mini socket basically.
Like a tiny little thing.
This is what we used. It was 10mm. Yeah, and that did the trick. Okay, so you need that to take those bolts out. You need a 14mm to take this off. That's 13, sorry.
That's 13, yeah.
Apologies.
You need a couple of spanners.
13. And that holds the steel cable, and you'll see it.
The cable comes off the gear shifter underneath.
Yeah,
this is on a bracket and goes onto that by that thing.
Now, this thing, I can't remember if it's, you'll come across that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does come off, and that's held on with another 13.
So you need a 10mm socket for the ratchet, because you can't get a spanner in there. Small ratchet, you need a 13 and a 14 spanner as well.
And two people.
And two people, yeah.
Right, so it had rivets in here.
Yeah.
And we just drilled them out with a 4mm drill bit. They just fell out. Drill from this side. Drilled them out from this side, and they just came apart. So when you lift it apart, you're met with this basically. Now, this thing here, you'll see has like a flat in there. I'm just trying to
just zoom in because it's important, these details.
There, it's a flat part.
So there's a flat part there that fits onto the gearbox shaft.
Yeah, and that has a flat edge to it.
So that can only go on one way, and it is quite tight when it goes on.
Our problem, believe it or not, literally.
Of course, let's show this close up because it's important. Our problem was one of these copper fingers here. One of the pads,
that one, I think, was corroded.
I think it was not this one, but this one here. It had corrosion on it. Literally. It was like it had arcing, like electrical arcing.
Right. So what we did, we used some electric contact cleaner. And we cleaned everything out, wiped it out.
A little bit of a copper wire brush on the tracks.
Yeah. We delicately just push these back out so they're all in line. Yeah. Same with those there. And then we applied the correct grease in there.
Some dielectric grease.
Yeah. Now, when you put this back in, you'll see all these reviews about which way it's got to go. Right, it's got to go like that. Make sure you've got that like that, and the shaft where it goes onto, you've turned it fully clockwise.
Which would be in the park position. So you turn it fully clockwise, and this is also fully clockwise, and then it'll all go on.
Right, let me just show you something. There's lots of people saying put pliers around the shaft and everything. It's only a little shaft, and it's quite precise, and it's got a thread on it. You do not want to damage that thread. So what I did is I popped that back on the flat bit of the shaft, this bit here, and I use this to turn it with.
Because it just clicks, doesn't it?
You can hit the thing. Just watch your hands on here, because they're quite sharp. That faces towards you when you're doing it up, and that's what locks the cable in. That's really it. I think they're about 700 odd pounds new, these.
They are, yep.
But what we'll do, we'll put this back on. We've cleaned it all up. We've put everything in the clockwise position. We've picked the best bits, what we can find out online, but a lot of it is contradictory and confusing. So we're actually doing the job, and other people, the best things that I've seen is people actually having done the job themselves. So we're doing the job. So we get this back on and we'll see how we get on. One thing they talk about all the time is adjusting this. You see those there? So these are the 10mm bolts we're talking about. So this allows for, you can see it, some adjustment to get it in position, and then there's a whole other procedure for making sure it's in the right position with the gear stick with the lights coming on, etc. But let's focus on this for a minute.
In our case, the M&S lights, the green flashing lights on the dashboard, when because the car won't start at the moment because of it.
Yeah.
It's not the battery, it can be the battery voltage and it can be bad earth, so that's something to check before, but this in our case is this, and it probably is in yours as well.
Let me describe some symptoms prior to this failing, and I've seen this online. Under the bonnet on the passenger side, if you lift the bonnet up, it's like a black button.
Inertia switch.
Inertia switch. I've seen posts where people say, yeah, press that. Yeah, it does work, and we've pressed it a few times, but didn't think it was related to this possibly failing. But clearly, if you're having to press that 2 or 3 times or more, your switch...
And also, when you put the key in, it wouldn't start, and then you'd leave it a few seconds and it would, but no lights would come on, but now the lights are coming on.
So I'd say the biggest symptom of this potentially going to fail on you is the fact you've got to press this inertia switch a few times. Anyway, if this helps you,
we're just making this video just in case you've got this problem and you want a little bit more, because there are a lot of videos out there, but we're trying to include all the information, trying to show you what's actually inside this thing and what's gone wrong for us with the black one. You might have the black one as well.
So when we put this back together, obviously depending where you are and what circumstances you're in, it's difficult sometimes. So what we're going to do is just pop some rivets in. There. Oops, there.
You can use little bolts with nylock nuts, but we're just going to use rivets.
If you've got some little 3-4mm rivets with a cheap old rivet gun, then that would be perfect. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hi, welcome back to part 2 of our Discovery XYZ switch, inhibitor switch. Just before I go on, apparently there are 3 versions of these, some with micro switches in them, and the one we've got with the black backing, that's the one we're looking at. Yeah, that's the one we're looking at today. So you see we cleaned it all up. There's a bit of corrosion on the contacts. We put a bit of grease back in it. What's it, that grease called?
Dielectric grease.
Grease in there, just where it goes on the plastic tracks. 4mm drill bit, riveted it back together, done. When you put it back on your Discovery underneath, and it lives under there, you'll see where it is, next to Gearbox. It talks about putting the gear lever into park, which you must do. Then it talks about turning the shaft, which is that, clockwise, and pushing it all the way forward towards the bonnet, towards the engine. Yeah. Some people have mentioned putting pliers on there, but it's a real fine thread, and I've seen in some forum posts that people have literally crucified that. So this is what I did. I used this thing that I've taken off, which goes on there, and I just pushed that with my hand all the way forward. It then asks you to, which is language that I didn't understand, to indents, detents backwards. And I used the same plate that I'd already taken off, and you can hear it go click, click, and that goes into neutral, and that's it. That's where you need to leave it. Then what you do, you position your switch onto the shaft. Now, best things in life is when people have made mistakes or struggled a bit. So we put our switch back on, and every time we try to tighten the 2 bolts up, which are here and here, yeah, top one, it kept pulling it out of neutral on the console. So we took it back off, and what we found was it was out of alignment. And the reason it was out of alignment, there was a bit of muck on the shaft, and it was just pulling it out a bit. So the top tip I would say, just make sure that shaft is clean with a bit WD-14, some real fine sandpaper. Don't touch the thread, just the shaft bit with the flat edges on. The other thing that I would say to do is that before you take this off, pull the switch off, you take all these bits off as per instructions. Put a bit of Tipex here at the bottom of your plastic casing, which lines up with the flat part. You'll see what I mean. And then when you go to put your switch back on, just line the white Tipex mark up with the flat part of your shaft there.
Yeah.
Those were really the only problems we experienced. So we've never done this before. We've done a lot on this vehicle. The tools you needed, you definitely need 2 people because space is limited in there. Underneath you'll see where the switch is. There's a chassis and there's exhaust. Some people say you have to take the exhaust off. I've got fairly big hands and I managed to, using, it is a small one, little ratchet like that with a 10mm socket on there for these 2 nuts. There and there. The bottom one's easy, but the top one, you just need to put your hand, loosen it off, put your hand up and turn it, and you will be able to undo it, but you could put some spray in there just to loosen it a bit. My advice is before you even undo any nut, is just try and get some WD-40 or something that loosens bolts
wire
up.
brush on it, just clean it up.
And I'll tell you why, I've also read forums where people that have snapped the bolts, especially at the top, and that would be a nightmare because that's a whole console out to try and re-drill that. To remove all this here, this nut here, this and that there, if you take that off first, you need a 13mm spanner, and the nut is at the back. Here, this clamps in with like a spiky thing. I can describe it. Watch your hands on it, it's quite sharp.
We can show you underneath in a minute, but it's space
So
is a bit limited.
13mm. I don't think I needed a 14. I think it was just a 13 and a 10mm spanner and something to lie on, and that was it.
One important thing to note is that throughout all this, the gear lever in the car, it's an automatic, is in park. The gearbox is in neutral when we fit in the switch, but the gear lever on top is in park. Okay, that's just one thing we didn't mention.
Yeah, so just to make sure you know, you follow the instructions about turning the shaft all the way clockwise until it stops. That's that thing you're turning, the shaft.
We're turning this thing.
This shaft here, this there. And you're using, I used that piece
that
when it's
works well.
taken off with the bolt and that. And then you turn it back, 2 clicks, you'll hear it, clonk clonk. That's anti-clockwise towards the boot. That's the position you need to leave it in. Then you place your switch on top of the shaft. I'll say that again, you place your switch on top of the shaft. Don't try and do it any alterations with the switch in place.
Don't fit the switch first, then do the clicking. You must do the clicking first, then the switch. It will not work.
What that does, and I'm no genius at this, or I don't profess to be, is that then when you slide it on the shaft, it puts your switch in the correct position for you.
Yeah.
That's my theory. I don't know. Might be wrong. Appreciate it. So we could just show you underneath what we're talking about.
Did we mention there was an alignment tool you can get? We haven't used it personally, but you might want to.
We have ordered this.
6585 there.
If you haven't, the other thing, if you haven't got a Haynes manual, this was spot on.
Yeah.
It's about using the alignment tool, and it's www.lasertools.co.uk/product/6485. If you search that, laser tools, discovery, XYZ switch and limiter switch, this will come up, and just print it off, and that's your solution to getting it right. It was perfect instructions, really clearer than Haynes, to be honest.
This is a Haynes manual, and just for the purpose of the videos, to make it easy, I will just include the sections that are relevant. So this is it here, so I'll just go slow. So as you say, put the select lever in position P, and then as we were talking earlier about the clockwise, fully clockwise, then 2 D10ths back, select P position of the shaft, which is that thing, which is, do it with this thing here on it. So, okay.
Can I just say something? Basically, when you've undone that bolt there and the cable's out there, you're using this as a tool back on there to do what they call D10ths. Plain English language, clicks.
2 clicks anti-clockwise basically. But that's everything here. We don't have the tool, but we managed to get it working without it. So
if we show you underneath what it looks like.
So I will do my best to film this underneath for you.
Just so you can see where it is. But
it's probably one of the most awkward jobs we've done just because of access.
If you use the hand, like I'll show you in a minute, you'll see what I mean. I'll take the wrench under and I'll show you the procedure. Now you can see somebody who's nearly 60.
This has got a 3-inch lift on this as well, so it's better than the normal one.
And I'll tell you now, I'll share this with you viewers. been at this 2 days, you wouldn't believe it, right?
Yeah, let's just say we've had a few issues.
I
So
am
we're trying
in
to help you via video.
physical pain. I feel like I've done 100 sit-ups.
Okay, let's get on with this. So we're just going to show you underneath, because there's nothing better than someone actually showing you what they're actually talking about, rather than it just being on a forum post. Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, let's just say that. There's a lot of good information, but there's also a lot of misinformation.
Right, so
where are we here then?
let me try and get...
So that, straight ahead there, is the switch. Let's get a torch up in there so we can see it.
Now, I've got a 30mm spanner, 13mm. You need it to take that off there. Just undo it, that's the first step one.
Yeah.
Then you need 13mm again on here. When you're taking this off, before you take this off, just before you undo this one, sorry, just loosen this one a bit, it's a lot easier. And then take that off. There's a bolt with a eye hole in it that slides out, keep all your bits together. Then you have to wiggle this off. This is a real tight fit. Real tight fit.
And it needs to be tight going back on, because if it isn't, it will pull it out when you're trying to test the gears.
If you think it's not coming off, it is. Just put some penetrating oil spray or something on there. Now you see that thread there, that flat bit. There's a thread on it.
Yeah.
Be real gentle with it. Okay. And when you've got all this off, the flat bit there, and you'll see the black case, just put a line of Tipex there. It would be behind this, so you can line that back up when you put your switch back on. It does make life easier. So I'm going to have to just put my elbow down a minute. Right, so the 2 bolts we're talking about are up there. You'll see it there.
So where's that one?
So let me show.
This is a very, very.
Let me show you how awkward.
Sorry. This is a very, very awkward
see
job.
It? There.
I can't get that one there. That's what I'm saying. So there's no room.
Well, here, but just try and. Can you see it now?
It should be able to. Whereabouts are we?
Just there.
It's right up the top there.
It's there.
See, yeah, where the torch is, yeah.
Yeah, that's the top bolt.
Yeah.
The bottom bolt is here.
You can see the bottom one a lot easier.
Yeah. It's there.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we've got a magnetic torch. It's called a Little Larry, and it's magnetic, and we stuck it on like that, basically, to try and get some light.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to move the torch in different positions, depending which part you're undoing.
And you will be able to see the top bolt. So you need a very small socket like this. This is 10mm, a tiddler.
Yeah.
Don't try and do without it. You get it up there, and you get it on, and you want it above that shaft with the bolt on, and then just crack it a couple of times, but make sure you put some penetrating oil in there first, and then crack it, more penetrating oil. Do not bust that nut, because you'll have a nightmare. Right.
Okay, guys.
Then when it's loose,
yeah.
depending what hand you just put it in, put your hand through between this and the exhaust and undo it by hand, and it's the same putting it back. It will save you ages. So basically that's us reporting from under the Discovery live, and I really hope these
videos help you. Yeah.
has helped you, and especially make sure that little shaft where the switch pushes back on is ultra clean. It's behind, you've got thread and a flat bit, and if there's probably 20 years of muck on there, so just give it a good clean with some very fine sandpaper and some lubrication oil. That'll help big time.
If you've got any questions about this, leave them in the comments below, and we'll give you a hand.
And if anyone wants to know where I got all this fashionable jacket from, give us a shout. Anyway, thank you for watching.